Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second week. I am still in Korea, so in case you're wondering why it's so bright out here, it's because I'm in Korea and it is 9:30 in the morning. So don't say I haven't done anything for you. You know, breakfast champions. I haven't had breakfast yet. So first thing I'm consuming today is wine, which is fantastic. Um, but anyways, we are tasting this guy today. We're kicking it off. 2022 Luneau, Papin, Grange, Landreau, Muscadet, Sevre-et-Maine. I know that's a lot of very French sounding things that I just said. Um, but anyways, yeah, welcome. This is the first week of what I'm calling a Weirdo island box, or not island, Weirdo pool party box. So in case you didn't catch that in the email that I sent out, this is essentially kind of all the, it's officially way too hot out there. All I want is just kind of cool, refreshing, crisp wines that I can drink in a hot weather in the pool or at the beach. And that's exactly what these are. All four wines this month are meant to be kind of if you wanted to just consume it, just pound it straight out of the bottle, they're perfect for that. But, as the name may suggest, Weirdo pool parties, it's a throwback to those pool parties in the high school days where those like the less popular artsy fartsy kids would show up, which inevitably made the party more fun and more interesting. And yes, I was one of those weirdo kids that showed up to pool parties. It's a dedication to those kind of artsy fartsy kids. So all these wines are, while they are pool party, very easily quaffable kind of wines. If you look deeper into it, there's something a little bit outside the box about them, whether it be varietal selection or the production method or just kind of stylistic expression. They're just little different than the typical mainstream kind of what's popular for those style of wines. So yeah, that's kind of the whole point. And the first week we're starting off with Muscadet, and most of you, probably all of you, are very familiar with Muscadet. We've had Muscadet on this club a few times, and oftentimes very kind of commodity, kind of a quaffable. Never really that expensive. So you order a bottle of Muscadet at the beginning of a meal. If there's a half oyster shells, or oyster on the half shell, classic pairing with the Muscadet, and you just kind of throw it back while you're looking at the menu, catching up with each other. It's that kind of wine. It's not meant to be, it's never like a really serious layered complex wine. But to kick it off, I'm starting with what's probably the considered most classic, quote unquote, but in a way that's done so kind of adds a sophistication to what it shouldn't be. So in that email that I sent out, I likened this wine to Paul Finch character in American Pie. And ChatGPT threw out a very, very, very good paragraph. I was shocked by how funny and well put together that paragraph was. So I put it in there. If you haven't checked out the email, you should check out that email, even just for that paragraph from ChatGPT, likening this wine to a Paul Finch character from American Pie. But anyways, so yeah, we're gonna start off with this, and then throughout the month, each week, there's gonna be different wines that is just a little bit weirder, a little bit different, and all of that. But so that's the whole theme. We don't have anybody new per se on the wine club this month, so I'm not gonna go through the typical name pronunciation, ground rules, and go through all of that. You guys are all familiar with how that goes. The only announcement that I do have is tomorrow, the Case Club will go live for all the wines that we tasted from last month, which is all the island box. So there's quite a bit of fun wines besides those island box wines that I may throw on there. So keep your eye out. The email will go out. So yeah, all that will go on tomorrow. Last but not least, 6 Foot Wine Club is dedicated to committed to donating 1% of its gross revenue to an organization each month. And this month I have chosen Food Rescue US. Oops, it says World Central Kitchen in there. Disregard that World Central Kitchen. That is not what was supposed to be in there. Food Rescue US, it's in the chat box. If you want to learn more about what they do, donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club. You can do that right there. Any other questions or any questions about anything I just went over before getting into the wine? Excellent. Hearing none, let's get into the wine. So we're kicking it off with this bottle today. 2022 Luneau, Papin, Grange, Landreau, Muscadet, Sevre-et-Maine is what we're tasting today. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, so forgive my French pronunciation. Super excited to kick it off with this one. I've been a big fan of Luneau Papin. They're kind of one of the earlier pioneers of really putting Muscadet beyond what was just commercially available quaffable wine, like I was saying. Most Muscadet you're gonna find on the market is just very bland. Quite frankly, it's kind of it's just a dry. It's just white wine. You know, when we get to tasting the wine through the grid, you know, like oftentimes we go there and then we're talking about intensity, and they're like, what does low intensity smell like? What does a medium minus intensity smell like? I feel like a cheap commodity Muscadet is exactly that. There's not much there. It's basically a little bit of booze, a little bit of lemon, and maybe a little bit of salt. That's it. So very, very simple, just kind of quaffable white wine kind of a thing, which is sometimes, but high acid, which is good for part of the reason why it was as a classic pairing with the oysters. But you know, it's really a family like Luneau Papin that really started looking at Melon de Bourgogne, which is a variety that was used to make Muscadet. Fell in love with it, became passionate, and they started looking at Muscadet in terms of kind of like a Burgundy system of like the appellations, the terroir, like really dividing up the land. So when we get there, you'll see that the Muscadet is not just one whole Muscadet. It's kind of like divided into different appellations, sub-appellations, and different drawing the line, delimiting it by the soil type, the microclimates, and all these things happen. And the people who led that movement is really people like Luneau Papin, who they were part of that movement. So really old school in terms of they haven't been bottling their own wines for a long time, but really kind of pioneers in that in terms of like putting making Muscadet more than what it normally is. So let me start with a map. It will kind of make a little more sense once you look at it. There you go. Wait, there you go. All right. So, hey, where'd it go? Sorry. Computer's freaking out. There you go. All right. So this is map of France. So we're in France this week, and we're right here in Loire Valley, which is in terms of a land mass or in terms of coverage of how the land it covers, Loire is the biggest one, biggest wine producing region in all of France. One of my favorite regions. I mean, I have many favorite regions in France, but particularly Loire Valley. If somebody asked me if I had to pick one region in France to drink for the rest of my life, I'll probably pick Loire Valley, just because there's a diversity of style. I mean, it covers all the way from Atlantic Ocean, which is on the left, goes all the way in through essentially the center, all the way going down into Auvergne, which is just north of Rhone Valley and the west of Beaujolais. So this whole thing is a Loire Valley. So as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of different soil types, a lot of different microclimates, and many, many different varieties, many, many different styles. So, you know, if you're going to have to pick one region, I would pick Loire Valley. You can find pretty much something for everyone, for anyone. But Loire Valley, kind of, if you look into it, it kind of divides into these kind of four regions, right? There's on the left is Nantes, or Paris-Nantais, Angers-Saumur, based. All these different regions are based. Names are based out of a big town that's in. So Nantes is on the western corner, with butted up against the Atlantic Ocean. Angers-Saumur, named after Angers, which is the town in here, and then Touraine, named after Tours in the center. And then this is a center. Essentially, this is where probably most of you are familiar with, things like Sancerre is right here. But for all intents and purposes of this week, we're right here on the western part. Probably the least appreciated, probably most underrated, if you ask me, region. There's a lot of really interesting, exciting stuff that's happening in Anjou and Touraine. And people have discovered a lot of these places, right? Like, I mean, you know, the names like Anjou, Sauvignon, right, Bourgogne, Chinon. These are kind of all the Valençay. We've had wines from Valençay from Mary Taylor. I mean, all these regions people probably are pretty well aware, familiar with. Even center, like I mentioned, Sancerre, Quincy, Rouy, all these places, people are quite aware of what's happening here. And going down to Auvergne, we're talking about Saint-Pourçon. We've had wines from Saint-Pourçon, right? Côte Rhônaise, we've had wines from here as well. Anyways, but most people don't really think about this part, the Nantes, the Western Loire region. I mean, we're really talking about Muscadet, though we've had Gamay, we've had red wine. The red wine is made here, rosé is made here as well as sparkling, but really what we're talking about the majority, white wine, Muscadet. White, dry, crisp wine made from a grape called Melon de Bourgogne. And why, you may be asking, why is there a grape named after or Burgundy, like a Bourgogne in Western Loire? We'll get to that once we start talking about what this wine is. But for now, just know that this is where we are. Out of all, and as you can see, there are these different regions, right? The Muscadet itself is divided into these kind of different sub-regions. And really, like I mentioned, family like Luneau Papin is were the kind of pioneers that helped divide up Painante and into these kind of different sub-regions, really driving different soil types. So there's some, you find all kinds of things out here. A lot of people thought the Nantes region is just all the same, kind of clay. But really, once you dove deep, there's some limestone as well. There's some granite. There's some schist. There's a mica schist, which is a different kind of schist. There's all these different soil types that happens. And obviously, as you go further inland, you are getting more and away from the large body of water, which is the Atlantic Ocean here. So you get less Atlantic influence. So while this entire region is essentially the entire Loire is continental in its climate, meaning it gets quite warm in the summertime, it gets bitterly cold in the wintertime, especially more inland you go. Here, it gets very, very cold. But it's true of the entire region. But if there, particularly on the west, more west you go, less of that. There's a lot more moderating influence from the Atlantic Ocean. So you're going to get a little more wetness, obviously, because you're right by the ocean, and then the temperatures don't become as extreme. But obviously, as you go further inland, it becomes more extreme, less of that rain. And then, as you mentioned, different soil types. So you can imagine, even if you were to express, and that's part of the reason I actually think is interesting, is because it's really dominated by one grape variety, that you can really see the difference, like a terroir difference between these regions, because it's planted to mostly one grape variety that we're going. So this is where we are. But out of all these, the creme of the creme, so to speak, is Muscadet, Sevre-et-Maine. This right here, this area, right in the center of it, is basically where the most highly regarded kind of wineries as well as wines come from of Muscadet, and that's where we are this week. This map doesn't show it, but this particular bottle, and also you may be wondering how to read this bottle, the label. So I'll go through that with you. So if you look at the label, the first thing you see is La Grange, right? So that's actually name of the plot, the vineyard. So that's the vineyard name. The Landreau is actually the village that this winery is in, or this is where the fruit is sourced from. So this map obviously doesn't show it because it's a small village, but this comes from a village of Landreau from a vineyard named La Grange. On the bottom, Domaine Luneau Papin, that's the name of the producer. And then Muscadet Sevre-et-Maine, it says right there, which is where the AOC, the appellation it comes from. And then the Tiré-sur-Lie, it just means stirred with the lees. Right? So it's basically, this wine is made with lee stirring, and we'll get to that once we start talking about how this wine is made and typical way the Muscadet is made. And then on the bottom is basically the vigneron, the proprietor since 1660 in Landreau is basically what that label says. So since 1660, they've been making wine for some time. Let's put it that way. So who makes this wine? So this is on the left, and this name is going to be quite confusing because, you know, in a true European fashion, they have named their kids with a very similar name as their ancestors. Well, anyway, these are the current generation of people that are running the family estate. So on the left, it's Pierre Marie, and then on the right is Marie. However, their parents' name is also Pierre. Pierre Marie's dad's name is Pierre, and then his Marie's mother's name is also Monique. So there's quite a bit of it may get confusing, but anyways, this is Pierre Marie and Marie. He's the ninth generation of Luneau Papin family. So they've been making wine for a long time, but these are the young folks that are in charge of this historic family estate. But also, look at how cute they are. I would want to drink wine from them. Anyways, quite a bit of history here. So Luneau Papin is basically essentially a merge of two families, is what happened here. The domain was born in 1990s through the essentially kind of a love story between Pierre Luneau and Monique Papin. The Pain and Luneau families have also lived and produced wine together since the 16th century, and which is a long time, on a few plots of land in the Loire Valley. The first kind of evidence of their viticulture on their lands of the Pierre Luneau Papin estate date back to the end of the 17th century. So that's why it says 1660. Between the 1910s and 1950s, the two farming families produced essentially that commodity, very thirst-quenching, quaffable kind of a Muscadet I was telling you about, but which they sold it in old, like 600-liter port barrels, and then they just sent it to Paris. So they're pretty much making like a bulk commodity wine. But then they experienced the boom in the 1950s when they finally started bottling their own vintages right after the end of the Second World War. And the bulk production was still kind of the majority of their family business, but they really started bottling their own, paying more attention to a few plots that they've noticed that were always doing better, producing better grapes. But going into the 1960s, they really started making their own bottling as opposed to bottling their own wines as opposed to selling bulk wines, in particular to a large English merchant who were big fans of Luneau Papin wines. So finally, in 1960s, two families have formally decided to combine their lands, and Pierre Luneau married Monique Papin, and it was Pierre and Monique who led the bottling of their own vintages and combining their lands to create what they now know as Luneau Papin. Pierre and then Monique were essentially, like I mentioned, they were the ones who were kind of fathers or pioneers of creating different AOCs for Muscadet, because both of them really had a huge love for the one really originated from Burgundy, but local grape by this point, which is Melon de Bourgogne, the region's historic grape variety. Starting at the end of 1970s, they started to promote the unique qualities of the single vineyard parcels, showcasing that there isn't just one Muscadet, but many different ones. They were also one of the very first ones to start bottling Muscadets like Burgundy, basically the single vineyard bottlings. It was never done before until Luneau Papin family started doing it. They launched 3 single vineyard wines, one of the first in the entire region to do so. And ever since then, they've been doing it every year. Their top level Muscadet Excelsior, if you ever get a chance, is very rare. It's hard to find, but if you ever come across it, you should pick up a bottle. It's one of those very rare ageable Muscadet. They actually hold back every vintage of their Excelsior Muscadet, and then they release it years and years later, sometimes decades later. And then it's really interesting to see what Muscadet they can do when we all know that it's just kind of a quaffable, like I said, quaffable oyster wine. In 2005, Pierre Marie, the one that I'm showing you right now, Pierre's son and the 9th generation winemaker, returned to the domain after working harvests around the world. Then in 2008, Pierre Marie's wife, Marie, joined the family business, taking charge of the sales, marketing, and communication, and all of that. So now these two fully, and in 2018, Pierre and Monique, their parents, officially retired. So since 2018, they have been in the Hemla, to fully running every day-to-day operations of the family winery since then. One of the things I really appreciate, not only all the history of them really being dedicated to this one region, one grape, and doing it in a way to really showcase what it can do. But one of the things that I really appreciate about them is that they go out of their way to kind of showcase and emphasize that it's not just them, it's the whole team that makes the wines possible. So their website, if you go to their website, they have a whole page dedicated to showing all their staff, from housemaids to harvest interns to like every single person who's basically worked on their estate. And as someone, you know, who's always try to highlight all these kind of invisible hands that have touched your bottle, taking it from grapes all the way to that bottle on your table that we're drinking today. I appreciate that very, very much. So if you get a chance, you should go check it out. They have a little blurb about each person as well, which is a pretty rare and cool thing for them to do. Anyways, let's talk about what this wine is. So, by the way, this is Melon de Bourgogne. I mean, it probably looks like it's just like any other grape variety, but pretty tight bunched. So, as the name may suggest, it originated in Burgundy. It was grown there until its destruction was ordered in the early 18th century, around the same time that Gamay was kicked out of Burgundy. Right, we talked about that during Bosch, right? How Gamay was kicked out of Burgundy, and then it moved to what is now known as Beaujolais in the southern tip of Burgundy. Same thing. Melon de Bourgogne, they said it's not noble enough, it's not good enough to be grown in a noble land like Burgundy. Only Chardonnay shall remain. So it got kicked out of the appellation. So when the harsh winter of 1709 destroys so much of the vines in Western Loire, in this area, Nantes, they were looking for a kind of a new variety to plant there. And Melon de Bourgogne was introduced to the region. So it's been here since the 1700s. And the DNA analysis has revealed that Melon de Bourgogne is a cross between Pinot Blanc and Goulet Blanc. Goulet Blanc is very, very rare. It's grown in Burgundy. It's one of those very small, minor blending grape. Pinot Blanc is also grown in Burgundy as well. But Pinot Blanc, you see it quite predominantly in places like Alsace, in the eastern part. So Pinot Blanc and Goulet Blanc is a cross between those two, is what Melon de Bourgogne is, what we're tasting today. So, hold on, let me get out of this share mode. Anyway, so this wine is 100% biodynamically grown Melon de Bourgogne. Luneau Papin is both certified organic as well as a certified biodynamic. Planted in 1974, and it's planted on a bedrock of schist and mica schist. This particular bottling, their entry-level Muscadet. They blend kind of different plots, all the different plots that they have, but they do make like I mentioned, the single plot, single vineyard bottlings, which is super fun to do. Just kind of get a sense of what these different sites can do. You know, how the expression differs or changes depending on the soil type and where it is. Anyways, the grapes are gently pressed in a pneumatic press, then native yeast fermentation. It's fermented and aged on lees in an underground glass-lined vats, which is a pretty common traditional way of fermenting grapes here. So they're just buried in the ground, and it's basically cement. It's like an egg, cement egg. And then inside is lined with the glass. So essentially kind of a innocuous, non-permeable kind of a surface kind of a thing. But the thing that makes Muscadet, and this is a very pretty common thing to do, is that because the Melon de Bourgogne is not exactly the most expressive grape of them all. And then to kind of give them more character, more body, they usually sit the wine on lees for normally longer than what you would find in a typical kind of quaffable white wine. So this one is 6 months on the lees. It obviously has been stirred, as the label says, so there's been some lee stirring, which is there's another word in geeky French word called batonnage, which is exactly what that is, just stirring of the lees. So sit it under 6 months. Again, it fills out the kind of the body. It gives a little bit of savory quality. A lot of the really cheap commodity Muscadet, like if I were to get it on a like a blind tasting setting, usually what I'm looking for is some sort of kind of like almost like a beery, kind of like a beer, kind of like a sense to it, just because it sits on the lees, because there's no other character except for just sitting on the lees and all that kind of like yeasty, bready kind of thing a little bit shows up, a little salty character. But yeah, so anyways, fermented and aged on the lees for 6 months without any racking until bottling. And then this one is bottled in March of 2023 with just a touch of sulfites. And essentially what this one is, so very straightforward, nothing but just kind of sitting it on the lees for a little bit lees stirring for 6 months. But everything else is pretty straightforward. But once we get to it, especially if you're familiar with Muscadet, you immediately notice how layered this is. I mean, you rarely, if this is your first time having Muscadet, don't expect that all your Muscadet in the future that you're going to pick up in a random most wine stores is going to be like this, because it's not. It's very much going to be just acid, lemon, and maybe a little salt, like I mentioned. But this one, even at its entry level, there's minerality here. There's a salty brininess here. There's a savory character, but there are also all these kind of expressive fruit and flower here. It is one of the most kind of very elegant and pretty Muscadet you're going to come across, and it's what I've always appreciated about Luneau Papin. All right, any questions about anything I just went over before we get into tasting? Also, just out of curiosity, how many is this your first time? For how many of you is this your first time tasting Muscadet? Okay. All right. Well, like I mentioned, if this is your first time tasting Muscadet, don't think that all Muscadet is like this, because it's not. But anyways, all right, let's taste it. Let's take the appearance.
I'll do that.
All right.
This is very clear.
It's very clear.
I would call this pale.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of color here.
A really light white lemon color to me.
Yeah, it's like I'll call this like a pale lemon. There's a little bit of color,
right?
Yeah, like a pale lemon with maybe just a fleck of gold, but yeah, not a whole lot of color. Like you can tell it's a little bit yellower, but it's not a whole lot of it. But yeah, lemon sounds pretty fine to me. Any other observations?
No bubbles, nothing particularly exciting about it. From an appearance perspective, it's got a nice shine to it, I would say. But
yeah, I know that this wine is definitely not filtered or refined, but it's probably just letting it sit and settle for a long time. But yeah, it's got a pretty amazing clarity to it for wine that's not filtered or refined. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the news.
She's gonna hate me for this. Allison, are you with us?
I am, and I could never hate you, Dave.
Well, I know, but I gave you the nose, which I know is your least favorite part. There
It is my least favorite, but you know what? I'm just so touched that you remember that it's my least favorite. So,
We've
so
been at this a while now. No, so
I'm with you here, where I am looking very glamorous, and washing the like the shelves of my fridge. So that's like my current state. Is she's drinking wine, she's cleaning the house, she's got a great pink lip. But now I'm gonna put the dish soap aside.
I took you away from household duties, Allison.
See, this is why I'm not too mad, right? And then I'm gonna do
You're a woman who contains multitude, Allison.
There you go. And yes, the nose is by far my least favorite, and I'm not good at it. But you know what I need to do? I need to get more wine. That's what I need to do. This week reminded me, or this month reminded me, that what's the fourth wine we're having, Un?
I don't know. I don't remember the order.
It's not Muscadet, but has a similar name, and it made me realize that I don't actually know the difference between those two grapes.
Oh, there's a Muscat.
It's a Muscat, yeah.
Yeah, in the box. That one's dope.
So yeah, I don't actually know the difference. It turns out. I guess.
Yeah, so no, that I'm glad you brought this up. I'll cover it right now. So Muscadet is a region, which is or a type of wine that this comes from, or the region. Like Muscadet, Sevre-et-Maine, which is where this comes from, which is made from Melon de Bourgogne. Muscat, yeah, is a grape. So there's like Muscat de Alexandria, Muscat de Ottoman. Like there's all these different Muscat varieties that are out there. So Muscat, Moscato, if you go to Italy, Muscat is a variety, grape variety. Muscadet is a region.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll remember it this time.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna smell this. I mean, I think this wine is clean, but it is not squeaky clean, I feel.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think this is squeaky clean. To me, there's a little bit of a reduction here.
Yeah, I got
reduction.
less now that it's been open for half an hour, but
yeah,
a lot more at the beginning.
Yeah, there's a little reductive quality here. So yeah, I mean, if you don't like that, you can decant it or just sit it in the large glass for a little bit. It will blow off. But there's definitely some reductive quality here. In this instance, I often don't necessarily care for reduction all that much, except for very like these kind of like austere, steely, kind of very high acid, dry, crisp white wine. So for example, like Chablis, like I don't mind reduction on that wine. Same thing that I don't mind reduction on a Muscadet. But again, if you don't care for it, you can just it's that kind of like there's just a little bit of like smoky, almost like a little farty kind of a thing, like matchstick kind of a thing going on here. But if you don't like that, just put it in a decanter and it will blow off. But wines like this, I actually don't mind it. I actually think it gives a little bit of a personality. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. And also that gives me a good excuse to use my decanter.
There you go, decanter. There you go.
Okay, so I experienced the intensity as light, which probably means it's actually medium because my nose is broken.
Well, that's a incredible self-awareness there. Here, let's see. Also, my wine is extremely cold. The fridge in my hotel room is extremely cold. So I don't know. I start smelling it here, which is like, yeah, maybe like just an inch off the glass. So I'm gonna call this medium.
I was right.
Yeah, so I'll call this medium. Maybe it will go to a little bit higher than that. But again, considering what Muscadet is, like Muscadet is honestly one of those wines where like you're in there, you're like, am I smelling anything? Very base level Muscadet. So the fact that this is even medium at a very entry level Muscadet they make is fantastic. So I'm gonna call this medium. What do you got on the wine?
All right. I feel like I get floral for sure.
Yeah, there's a little bit of floral character here. I get it.
But what
some
floral?
sort of like a white flower, blossomy kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
maybe
chamomile.
Like jasmine or something. Yeah, chamomile. Yeah, something like that.
No,
yeah,
I said not chamomile.
Oh, not chamomile? Okay.
Or yes, if that's the right answer, then yes, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, there's some sort of like a white flower, chamomile kind of a thing going on here for sure.
Yeah.
Any green fruit?
Probably. Maybe like, maybe kind of like pear.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or quince. I don't really know what quince is, but I kind of get quince feelings from this.
Yeah. Quince is like, to me, is like a very aromatic pear.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Maybe not that then.
But like, yeah, some sort of pear, some sort of like appley. That gooseberry thing also kind of comes to me here as well. There's like a little bit of green here, which is not uncommon in Muscadet. Okay. Any citrus?
I don't think so.
No? I get a lemon here.
I mean, I don't get very much, so that's probably part of the problem.
Again, it may be just because
Sure,
the way I was
lemon.
trained, but
Yeah.
white wine, I always get
Well,
lemon,
and your
but
nose
yeah.
is not broken. I don't have apparently a good nose. It's okay. I have many other fine qualities.
Yeah, I get like not just lemon, but like it's like a very like salted lemon kind of a thing here.
Mm.
Yeah, like a preserved lemon kind of a thing. Yeah. Any stone fruit? Tropical?
I don't think so. I feel like I get maybe a little bit of tropical fruit though. I feel like I get maybe kind of a pineapple-y thing, like an underripe
Yeah.
pineapple.
Yeah, underripe pineapple may. Yeah, I get a little bit like, to me, gooseberry and passion fruit have a very similar kind of a vibe thing going on. Very, it's almost like green, but not quite green. But there's something savory quality about both of these fruits, passion fruit and gooseberry, and then I get some of that. So I can see how somebody can see this as a little bit of touch of passion fruit in there. But yeah, to me, this is more of a green fruit than what I truly call passion fruit. But yeah, also this place is, again, continental. It gets too cold. It's not really a place where you can get a whole lot of stone or tropical fruit. So yeah, it makes sense that it's going to be more green and citrus throughout. Any red or black fruit?
Tons of black fruit, Oon.
Yeah, just
of
plenty of shit.
Bramble, plum, black cherry for sure. Yeah,
just grape jelly.
Slamming me on the palate. Yeah.
Yeah. Any nature of the fruit?
I would say ripe, except for to me, I get like a little kind of an underripe sort of situation. Yeah.
100%. I totally agree with you. I think it's mostly very fresh and ripe. That kind of lemon, a little bit of that gooseberry, pear, green apple, like green apple, that kind of stuff. Like it's very just like before fully ripe. Like it's fresh. There's nothing cooked or jammy about this, but there's a little bit of that kind of green, kind of underripeness running through. Again, very common with Muscadet. Again, Lower Valley, it's just very cold. Any herbaceous, any herbal?
I kind of feel like maybe there's something herbaceous, but none of these things kind of pop out at me, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably what you were talking about, that touch of that kind of green, underripe kind of quality, kind of leafy quality. Yeah. Any spice, any minerality?
Yes to minerality.
Yes. 100%.
Yes. Stones or something.
Yeah, there's definitely some like rockiness here. To me, this is like again, it's a power suggestion perhaps, or it could be two things. It could be a power suggestion, which is knowing that this was grown in schist. There's definitely that kind of like schist, like a question, like a rock layered kind of a thing. Like if you ever go on a place where like a rock climbing, and anyways, just big rocky quality. But two, like I mentioned, the reason I say I don't mind the reductive quality in a very dry, steely, austere wines like this and Chablis and other things is that reductive quality can give that matchstick kind of quality, can actually give off a little bit of that minerally, almost smoky kind of quality to it. And I think that some of that is definitely playing into here as well. I do get some of that kind of flinty kind of a thing going on here as well, but that could just be reduction again. Also, just in the moment that I poured the wine at the beginning of the tasting to now, like all that reduction is blowing up very, very quickly. But there's definitely stoniness here. There's definitely a ton of minerality right through it. Again, at the entry level Muscadet, for it to have this much minerality is unheard of. Any secondary, any tertiary?
No.
No. This is very fresh, very, very pretty much driven right here in the primary. Excellent. See, you did just fine.
I did great.
Yeah. You get to pick the next person for the palate.
I'm gonna pick Joe. For no particular reason.
Mr. Knubel.
Well, I'm going to jump straight to, do you confirm or deny Allison's calls? And I agree with her. I don't think there ain't shit on this nose.
It smells shit.
It's just, I really like this wine, but the nose is just whatever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it's got something there, but I gotta like, smell it.
Yeah. So this is like,
I get some lemon pith, you know.
yeah, there's some lemon fifth for sure.
You really gotta
Um,
stretch it.
yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, this is Muscadet, but
Yeah.
I don't know. For Muscadet, I think there's a lot. I don't know. Even if without Muscadet, even at just like a white wine, I get it. Like there are a lot of layers here. Like there's different things that are running through. Maybe it's not like super intense.
Yeah.
The concentration is not quite there.
Well, like, mine's in an ice bucket too, so it's like.
Yeah. Let's start from the sweetness.
All right. It is definitely dry. The acidity is I call it medium plus to high. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's like
It's got some acid, and that's also the thing with the melon that we're going. Muscadet. It's got a popping acid, and again, that's why it's good with oysters.
Like,
It's got really good acid.
there's a long tail in the acidity. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel it pulling. And maybe also this is literally my first sip of anything that I've had today, except for water. So that first sip, I'm like, fucking
Are
acid.
you still in Korea or are you back?
I'm in Korea. Yep. I'm leaving tomorrow. So yeah, this is still.
This is your 9 a.m. swig.
Yep. 9:30 a.m. You know.
Awesome. No tannin.
Tannin?
No tannins.
Mhm.
Alcohol. I call it medium.
Yeah, I'll call this like 12%.
Mm-hmm.
12.5. Okay. Again, this place is very cold, so you're never gonna have, Muscadet that's gonna get up to like 14.5. It's just not gonna happen. If you ever get to a Muscadet that's 14.5, you should question that. You're like, what happened this vintage? It was like, why is this so high? It should not happen. So yeah, medium. Body?
So for a white, this has got some viscosity. I call this like a medium plus body.
Yeah, I'll go all the way to medium plus, but this definitely got some body. I'll call this a medium for sure.
Yeah.
Again, that is not melon. That is the lees aging. So whole reason why they stir the lees and set this melon on the lees is not only to develop flavors, but that texture, the body, and even the most muscadets don't reach this level of body. This kind of like a texture, textural kind of part.
It has some.
It's kind of watery
to it, despite
yeah,
sweet and the alcohol being.
Exactly. So the fact that this has developed that much body is a work of a testament to their work of the lees aging. But yeah, I'll call this about medium, higher than medium. Moose, we don't have to talk about obviously. Flavor intensity.
I'd call this like a medium plus. Yeah.
You call this medium plus? Yeah. So on the nose, you were saying you're not getting much, but on the palate, you're getting medium plus.
I'd say so. Like it has like a good. Yeah, it's pretty intense. As a long finish, I'd call it medium plus. It's
yeah. I'll go all the way to medium plus. I'll probably call this about medium and as intensity. But again, my wine is also very, very cold right now. So medium intense flavors of. Do you agree with everything that Allison called out?
Well, I mean, I agree that there's like not much in the nose. You really got to drink it.
I mean, like I said, these are all the wines that you could literally just pound out of the bottle if you wanted to.
As far as like floral, I could go with like wet geranium. For fruit, so there's a lot of savoriness to this wine.
Yeah, yeah. Even more so than on the nose. Yeah, I got some on the nose, but on the palate, I get a lot of savory.
Kind of see it leaning towards stone fruit, a little more than green fruit.
Yeah,
it's a little more. I don't think there's a lot of green fruit on this personally.
Yeah,
but there's obviously citrus. There's
Yep.
lemon. I think there's a lot of zest.
Yep.
Even like it kind of has a something with wines that are like kind of this savory but fruity. They remind me of like sherbet ice cream.
Mm, okay.
Like orange sherbet to some degree.
Okay.
A little bit of apricot for tropical fruit.
So you're picking up some stone fruit in the tropical.
Yeah, like I'd
Yeah.
get a little apricot, and for tropical, yeah, I definitely go a little bit of mango, melon, and side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's not so much as tropical stone fruit, but this call, like I keep going back to it. This like a passion fruit / gooseberry. Like there's definitely a sense of that running through here. Yeah, touch of floral, ton of citrus here, ton of lemon pith you mentioned at one point, which I really like that call. And then this kind of like a passion fruit kind of sharpness to it that this has. And then okay, what else?
Nothing really dried cooked.
Yeah, nothing cooked here.
Herbaceous, not really. Herbal.
Yeah, there's nothing cooked here. The fruit seems very fresh to me here. There's a bit of that underripe thing, but like to me, passion fruit and gooseberry both have that kind of like underripe greenness running through it. Not necessarily the fruit is underripe, but even when it's peak ripeness, there's this sense of the kind of green, kind of this herbaceousness, that piercing character. And I think this definitely does have a little bit of that running through here. And then any spice, any minerality or anything like that for you?
I don't think I get as much minerality as you. Again, I really like it. I get a little tiny bit of flint, but not a lot. Not compared to like some of the other things we've had.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying this is like the most minerally driven wine, but I definitely get some minerality here. At the least, like there's definitely some kind of actual like schist, like rockiness running through, but there's also like saltiness that's running through.
Yeah, I think there's a little more
briny.
Like I said, a little more savory. It's a briny, a little more brine, savory.
Yeah. And that is very typical of Muscadet. So Muscadet, because of that lees stirring and the lees aging, it always has that kind of savory edge to it. Savory / touch of like salty, briny thing going on. So this definitely has that character. So like if I have to get this on the blind tasting exam, there's nowhere other place that I can go or I would go except for Muscadet. Like it's got all the hallmarks of Muscadet, like searing acidity, right? Like it's got that kind of beery, it's got that like savory salinity kind of thing. What would throw me off is like, why is it so like there's a ton of minerality that I get here. And then all these different kind of a complexity of like the fruit and the flowers that we call out. Again, most Muscadet, you will not find all this. Like most Muscadet, we'll be talking about like medium minus, if we're good, maybe medium intensity and the complexity of literally like lemon and lemon. And lemon and maybe like saltiness, brightness. That's it.
A little salt, But,
yeah, that's it. But the fact that we've called out some flower, that maybe green fruit, we may disagree a little bit about like stone fruit and tropical, but like we at least agree on floral, citrus, minerality, herbaceousness, and then like savoriness. Like
like
that.
A little bit of mango, that orange sherbet thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my childhood speaking.
But yeah, so the fact that we were able to name all those things, it just also goes to show that this is, again, like the Paul Finch character American Pie. Like it's supposed to be just a bland juice box thing, but it like adds these layers of like sophistication and adds layers of these kind of like.
Yeah, no, this is I like this a lot. It's great.
Yeah. Cool. Any secondary, tertiary?
Actually, I do get like a little bit of like yogurt on this.
Yogurt, okay.
Yeah, like a touch of that.
Yeah, I can't verify the MLF. I don't know how much MLF it's got through. It's most likely, if I have to guess, probably all of it. But just looking at the feel of the acid, so yeah, it probably makes sense. And then, obviously it hasn't been sitting long enough to really talk about this, but we see the evidence of Lee's aging from the body that you were talking about. There's got some viscosity to the wine, but that savoriness and all of that. Cool. And the length?
Definitely like a medium plus to long.
Yeah.
The acidity is just like nuts on this. If you do for me, like if I do a front teeth swish, it's like 10 seconds.
Oh, really? Wow. I mean, it's got good acid, but it's, to me, because of that, all the savoriness and then some fruit that's on here, like it doesn't come off as sharp. The acid doesn't come off as sharp as some of the wines that we've had.
It's not as angular.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, the savoriness balances out. I call it like a medium plus finish. It's great. It's good.
I don't think it's that low. I don't think I would go medium plus on this thing. I'd probably call this about medium. In fact, even like lower end of medium on this thing. Like the length is really what catches me off guard here. Like everything else is way beyond what I expected. It's like, oh, medium intensity, medium body, all these things. But then like the length is like, I don't know, to me it feels like it just kind of falls out.
It's changed a bit though since I opened it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna call this about medium right now, as of right now. Again, my wine is still very, very cold. Like my wine is almost like borderline freezing when I pulled it out. I didn't realize that fridge was that cold. So that may be why. Or it might have just gotten ruined because of all the temperature changes. Just got through from traveling here in my bag to going to that fridge, and being in the car while I was traveling in a very hot Korea right now. So maybe there's that too. All right, bring it home for us. How good is this wine, and would you age it?
I think it's very good. I like it. I love the savoriness of it. I think it's like a really well balanced wine. It's just a really nice. I mean, I don't. If you told me this is Muscadet, I wouldn't. If I would be a little surprised. Really, like it doesn't taste kind of quite like it, but I get it. But it's like really tasty, and I might be getting a few bottles of this.
Excellent. Well, let's go through it. So
I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Luneau Papin. They were actually the ones who made me realize they're like my reference point wines for Muscadet, for a good Muscadet. But yeah, like this one is, yes, I think this acid is screaming here, but good. I think it's very well balanced.
Oh yeah, and ageability. I mean, what year is this? 22?
22, 23, 22.
I mean, with all that acid, you could put like 3 or 4 more years on it, I think.
Yeah. So here's what. So you say you would age it? Are you saying you would age it, Joe?
Like 2 to 3 years, yeah.
Okay. So short, yeah. So going from the top, quality level, balance, concentration wise, we call it what? Medium on the nose, medium on the palate. So medium. You call it medium plus on the palate. I call it medium. The complexity, I mean, yeah, we call out some flower. We call out some citrus fruit. You call out some stone fruit, some savoriness, herbaceousness, minerality, pretty much all in the middle.
In the
you
body,
call out some yogurt.
The body and the savoriness could really,
yeah,
do a lot.
But exactly, there's a savory edge here, all that leaf stirring. But I won't go anything beyond medium on that thing, right? And then the length, you call it medium plus, I call it medium. So depending on with your call, what you're calling, right? You call the concentration or the intensity on the palate medium plus. You call the length on the medium plus. So it makes sense. So you would call it very good. But with the bottle that I'm tasting right now, I'm calling it pretty much getting it all medium along down the line, like medium intensity, medium complexity, medium length. So I'm going to call this good. And potential for aging, excellent point on the acid, right? It's got the backbone. It's not going to fall apart anytime soon. What I would argue, however, is that I mean, I agreeing with your call of like 2 to 3 years. I don't think this wine is going to fall apart anytime soon because of that really rigid acid backbone. But there's like not enough concentration here for me. Like I would want it to get it to like medium plus for it to get anywhere 5 to plus, and for it to get really interesting. I just think I think there's not enough fruit here for it to age for a long time. And I think it's just going to change very quickly into all the savory. And I think you would actually lose complexity because
I wouldn't age it another 2 to 3 years before you drink it.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is perfectly fine. You know, drink it over the next 2 to 3 years, but I don't think this is meant to be aged for. Like, this is not the wine that I would put in the cellar to like, age, just see what happens to it. It's just something that I want to keep around because it's delicious and I want to pound it. Like when I wanted to pound it out of a bottle, this is what I would pull out for the next 2 to 3 years. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily age it for complexity or for improvement of the wine, so to speak. Cool. Excellent. By the way, if you ever heard me, and I've used that term on this tasting today a few times, but this is kind of like austere, and this is not even because of that plenty abundance of fruit and flower and some other things we talked about. I wouldn't necessarily call this austere, but in general, yes, like Muscadet, Chablis, even now this wine is quite an austere wine. Like there's not a lot going on. It's just like a very straightforward, linear kind of a wine, and like a steely. It's not made in stainless steel, but like steely, austere. These are kind of the wines where not a whole lot of things going on, but like a very narrow lane and a focused kind of a way. And I think this wine definitely goes down that lane. So, in case you've ever heard some other wine geek use that term, austere or linear or things like that, this is kind of what I'm talking about. All right. Any questions about anything? Or any disagreement?
I thought it had a lot of saline, a real salty finish, and it's a long, definitely. Very long finish for this wine.
Very long finish. Is everybody else getting a longer finish? I know, Joe, you mentioned longer finish. My wine doesn't have a whole lot that long a finish.
It does. Mine.
All right, so maybe my wine got damaged with all that temperature variance getting here. But okay, so it's like 3 people who've called out long finish at this point. So,
well, how come saltiness isn't a dimension on this thing?
100% agree. I think the saltiness should be on there, but like there's so many wines that has a salty edge to it.
Because it doesn't really fall under the minerality, and obviously it's not the other end of the sweet spectrum. So.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. But it's the grid. We should all write a complaint to WCT, but like you should have a salt.
I'll write a
salt line item.
I'll write a stern letter.
Yeah, no, I think general just a kind of savoriness, saltiness, brininess, I think should be a call that we need to make on a wine, as well as a texture, like mouth feel, like they actually talk about. And I know that's more qualitative than it is quantitative, right? Like you're not gonna say like medium plus mouth feel, like what does that mean? But like at least talking about, it's like some wines kind of earlier when we were talking about acid, right? Like very angular versus round. Some are very velvety versus some are like almost gritty, like you can almost feel the texture on the wine, like these are all like real things in wine, but like the grid doesn't require you to talk about that. And
right, I mean, it kind of falls under minerality, but if like the whole point is to split hairs here.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
This is the style of wine you really like why not have a whole,
Agreed. 100%. No, I'm full agreement with you.
Let's just make our own grid.
You said that they stir the lees with this one, this wine. When other wines are on the lees, are they stirred too, or they would have to tell us that?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they just leave it on there. And then, so like, for example, like champagne, it's not necessarily stirred. They just kind of move it around a little bit, just kind of move it to the bottom, but it just sits there, right? A lot of California Chardonnay is full on batonnage. I mean, like every day they're going there stirring it up, right? So, and then it ranges all the way in the spectrum. With this one, they do stir it, and then they make a point to let you know that they do, and it's very common for Muscadet. Any other questions? Excellent. Did you guys like this wine? Just out of curiosity. I couldn't really guess whether you were gonna like this wine or not.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, Muscadet is a pretty easy crowd pleaser, and this is a pretty good Muscadet. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Did anybody not like this wine? Like actually, like actively dislike this wine? Just out of curiosity.
We didn't dislike it, but we found it like meh. Like it's just like it's all right.
Yeah.
Totally meh, and also really disappointed because every characteristic you named, the salinity,
Yeah.
all of those things, I love. But everything, the nose, all of it, to me was basic and flat.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, Muscadet is never like that exciting. Like I said, like it's not meant to be like a mind-blowing wine. It never will be, unless you're getting into like some of their higher, like their higher end stuff is mind-blowing. You're like, this is not Muscadet. There's no way this is Muscadet. It's that kind of wine. But for the entry point, yeah, maybe like I am over enamored with this, knowing what most Muscadet is like. So maybe that's what it is. But okay, totally understandable. Totally, I think that's totally fair. And for those of you who are familiar with Muscadet, like, what do you think about this? As far as the Muscadet goes, and then as far as just it as like a singular, just standing on its own as a wine.
I'm with Joe. I would have never guessed this as a Muscadet. Never.
Yeah.
It has too much complexity to it, and
right?
the salinity is so much higher than most Muscadet. I mean, Muscadet is like table wine to me.
Yeah.
And this is not. This is more exciting.
Anyone else?
I like it better than most of them.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're like astringent and thin, and this doesn't drink thin, but it also doesn't drink like particularly generous with the fruit or like opulent or anything. It's kind of like they moved it back to the middle.
Yeah.
It's usually too far over here.
Yeah.
I kind of want it here, and they got it to like here.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I want some more round fruit.
Yeah.
But it's like way better in balance. And I feel like a lot of Muscadets, like they take the balance issue and they just fix it with like bad winemaking by just like making it almost like watered down. They're like, it's better than, better than too acidic is like just a weak wine that still is too acidic, but doesn't have any flavor.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty good, this is a great Muscadet.
That's why I think it's very good. Like with my Muscadet blinders, I'm like, this is a great Muscadet.
Yeah.
It's an outstanding Muscadet.
Yeah.
Which is to say, it's like a solid 6.5 or 7 out of 10 for me.
It's like when I think I said this last week, 2 weeks ago when I'm with Columbia. It's like you go from DC to Columbia, and then you like immediately move up 2 points in an attractive scale. It's just like, this is like the Columbia 6 in a DC.
Are we talking about the country or the Carolinas?
Yeah, I thought
no,
saying...
I'm talking about the Carolinas, Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way you went to the country Columbia and moved up in the attractive.
I mean, the idea goes, I mean, idea is the same, but like, exactly, like a DC 8.
Now, Charles, now.
Yeah, country, and then you become like a Columbia 5. You know what I mean? But like, if you're Columbia, South Carolina 6, then you move to DC, then you're like a DC 4.
Yeah, you're also the only Asian guy who doesn't go to the University of South Carolina. Let's be fair.
Yeah, this is like a big fish in a small pond kind of situation, I guess. But I don't know. Like I would be happy getting this as just like a glass pour or somebody. Like I would not be mad about it, but yes, I wouldn't be like sitting there going like, oh my God, this glass of wine. But you know, again, enamored because of what other muscadets are like out there. So
Yeah,
Do you ever?
the $18 to $24 bottle glasses of white wine you get at French restaurants in DC. If someone plunked this in front of you for $18, I'd be like, this is way better than anything else you ever served. So,
yeah, fair.
Do you ever, like in an exam, do you ever think about like, oh, here's the thing I don't like about this wine, which tells me that it's this?
Oh, 100%.
As opposed to like
every time.
isn't like something's missing. You're like, oh yeah, this would be delicious if it had this. Oh, it's probably a Muscadet.
Oh, 100%, all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Muscadet is one of them. Sancerre is another one. Like all that pyrazine, I'm like, why? Like, why do you grow this grape that is not doing well here? Honestly, I mean, sure, minerality character. Like, I'm not gonna argue with that. And as the global warming comes and then more ripeness comes to that region, like I get it. To me, it makes more sense to grow Sauvignon Blanc there now. But like Sancerre, like 15, 20 years ago, like why?
I bet it'll still be bad because the acid will be too low.
You mean later, like now?
Yeah, like if climate change, it'll be like, oh, now it's got like round fruit and less grassiness, and it's like a flabby.
Yeah, it's like shorter window.
It'll be
shorter
like
window
for
sure. Yeah, it's not as drinking more, but yeah, 100% all the time. I mean, a lot of California wines, I feel that way. I'm like, I want more acid. Like I want more structure, I want more leanness here. You know. Yeah.
By the way, I drank a wine the other day at Tail Up Goat. I went there for my wife's birthday, and they did. I'll have to look it up. I'm not going to remember the details, but it was a skin contact white where they pressed and took the skins away, and then they put it on the skins of a different grape.
Yeah, it's like why? Like who does that?
So by the way, it was delicious. It was fantastic.
Oh sure, yeah.
So they put it on Gewürztraminer skins. And I was like, okay, I don't really understand like how you came up with that. But I was like, man, that's like
okay. So
yeah, there was a reason.
That makes much more sense. So one, not only flavor, right? Like if you want that like aromas and a flavor component of Gewürz, but Gewürz also is just naturally very high in polyphenols.
Yeah, and low in acid, right?
And low in acid, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so it's like that.
So they put something, like I have to remember the grape, but they took a grape that was high in acid and they wanted the skin contact out of something that was aromatic, but that it wouldn't have. I was like, I was like, holy shit! People could be like making like transformer wines that are like, I want the Voltron wine now. I'm like, man, we've been like playing 2-dimensional chess for 2,000 years. I want the
Didn't they used to blend before they, you know?
So like, because people use like press wine, right? They're like, oh, we use some press wine from a different thing or whatever. But it's like, man, just like press, you know, like Pinot, and then be like, oh, and I aged it on Merlot skins. Be like, what's gonna happen? No one knows.
Right, but if you want to take it up even more risky, is that right? Like, it's one thing to make you press it off, make it, and put it on the skin, but like, if you want to go real, like raw dog, like co-ferment it, you know, take some Gewürz, there's the regular ones, and then like just co-ferment the whole thing. Like that's balls, like that's risky as shit.
Yeah, that's a good way to lose like $150,000 worth of grapes.
Exactly.
But anyway, I drank this wine and I have the name of it in case anyone wants, but I was like, shit, this is delicious.
Yeah. I know, but that kind of stuff is very interesting to me, right? It's like we're moving away from just traditionally what was made, and now people are mixing and matching and really like taking apart different parts of wines and trying to add in what they want. Yeah, and I'm sure the purists would hate shit like that. They were like, "What are you doing? You're disrespecting tradition." But, anyways, before we get into all of that, let's play everyone's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? So it's Muscadet, right? Never that expensive. Having said that, it is Luneau Papin. It is a very well-known name within at least natural wine, and it's not even natural wine, just in a Muscadet world. One of the pioneers they've been making for a long time. It is the entry level. We called it good all around. Very good for Muscadet, but maybe not, rocking our world. So yeah.
Is this post tariff?
Yeah, I mean, tariff did kick in for this vintage. So 24, 21, 15, 22, 16, 23.99. Oh, you guys are pretty dead on here. So this on the retail shelf would be $24. So I mean, it's pretty good. I don't know, for $24 for Muscadet, yes, you may be thinking like that's way too expensive for Muscadet. Allison, Catherine, that 15, 16 is probably right for Muscadet. You can even find Muscadet even cheaper than that. So when you see 24 for Muscadet, you're like, what the fuck? But honestly, I don't necessarily care to drink any other Muscadet. Like if there's other than Muscadet, like it would be like I want it on the rocks, and like pour some, sparkling water on it, like making a spritzer or something. But like this wine, I would actually, I would want to drink this if I was in like a poolside on a hot day somewhere. So there you go, $24. I think it's an excellent deal for $24. Any other questions? Cool. Oh, is that the one? Oh, Paris Balta. Okay. That makes sense. These so Paris Balta is 3 women who make wines there. They're from Catalonia. They're super cool. Like if you ever want to taste each one of those cava varieties as a varietal wine, still wine, not even sparkling, they make one of those, each one of those. Yeah, super cool winery. Yeah, I've liked their work for a long time. So makes sense. Any other questions?
Did you go to that wine bar in Colombia yet?
No, I'm still in Korea, dude.
How long have you been in Korea?
Just shy of 2 weeks at this point. Like 11 days.
I didn't join last week. I might have missed the.
Yeah. Still in Korea. Leaving tomorrow, so I'll be back in the States on Friday night, 4th of July night. Probably won't go that weekend, but maybe weekend after is kind of what I'm thinking. I do want to go check it out. And I've been talking to one of the importers that I work with who's based out of Charleston. And he has presence in Colombia. So he's like, yeah. Like, let me connect you with Tim, the owner at Lulu's, as well as there's another New York transplant, former restaurant person transplant to Colombia who runs a restaurant group down in Colombia. So it's like, yeah, let me introduce you to her as well. So yeah, starting to get my wine connections down there. So we'll see what happens.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Safe travels back home.
What's that?
Safe travels back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. On my way here in Dallas, had I not had my parents waiting, like, because the very next day, right after I got in, we were going to drive down to the southern coast to meet up with my sister and spend a week down here. Had we not had that plan, I probably would have taken up on this deal. So the flight from Dallas to Seoul on American Air was fully overbooked, and they were offering $1,200 overnight stay, meal tickets, transportation back and forth from airport to Dallas, and hotel accommodation for a night. And I did all this trip on like points. So I was like, fuck, I could have gotten paid $1,200 to like come on this trip. But I was like, oh no, I was gonna fuck up my parents' schedule if I did that and figure it all out. But I didn't take it. But Yeah. I've never seen any, like I've seen like those offers go up to like, I don't know, $400, $500 maybe, like at the most. I've never seen it go up to like $1,200 with like all that. Like that was crazy.
Can I tell you that I was in Aspen last week and there was terrible flight issues getting out of Aspen. Aspen, as it turns out, is even wealthier than I realized. They start the buyout process at $1,000. And one of the flights was delayed for 90 minutes because they went up to $2,500 and they weren't allowed to go over it. And they didn't have enough volunteers who would take a later flight for $2,500.
I know, what? That's insane.
And the person next to me, she was like flying back to New Zealand. And I also got the sense that she was pretty rich. And she was like, no, ordinarily I'd be into this, but I like have this flight and this flight and I like can't mess up my plans or whatever. But she was pissed because they were like, we literally will not take off until we have 11 volunteers. And they couldn't find 11 volunteers for $2,500. I was like, holy crap. And then my flight came up and they started it at $1,500. And I was like, I will take a later flight. And I was pretty excited about it.
Yes.
But then we were delayed because they couldn't get enough volunteers and we were delayed. And then at the very last minute, some atmospheric change happened so that they could actually put us all on the plane afterward anyway. So I was already delayed and I was already on like the wrong connection home, but I didn't get the money and I was so sad.
Oh,
because I was so excited. I got on the plane and like people who were sitting near me were like, oh yeah, you got on. I was like, no, I don't want to get on. I want $1,500. That's what I want. I'm not from Aspen. This money means something to me.
Yeah.
I could do like almost a year of wine club with this money. Anyway. Anyway, but it was the most bizarre thing because like you, I'm used to like it starting at like $200 and going up to like 500, like if it's crazy. And here they started 1,000. It was absolutely unbelievable. And they couldn't even find people.
Yeah, I know. I was like, if I lived in Dallas, like, why wouldn't you take this?
Mm-hmm.
If you live in Dallas, like, why? Yeah, just go home for a night. Like, how much of your travel is going to change because you go arrive one day later, But yeah, I've never seen like anything like that. But 2,500 for a domestic flight.
That's Aspen though. So like in Aspen, I did a Zillow check. They have one home available for less than $2 million, and it's a studio. It doesn't even have a separate room for the bed. It's just a studio, and that's the only home on sale under $2 million.
It's interesting. So I've been to Aspen only once in my life, and I've heard this, right? Like people are like, "Oh, it's basically Beverly Hills in Colorado Rockies." So I was expecting this like crazy opulent, and there's plenty of that for sure.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how many locals that actually live there.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not just like a seasonal workers that just came into town and worked and left. So I ended up going to the actual ski village where like the Aspen Resort is. Like you find there's Nobu there. Like I mean it's wild there, but there are also within that there are spots where like the actual like people like all year round people who live. And then I going to this like dive bar, having a great fucking time with these like local people that live there. And I was like, oh,
I love it. But
there's some normalcy here.
They were also loaded people. They were just like low key loaded, not like fancy loaded. They were like loaded, but also drink Miller Lite kind of people.
Yeah, they probably bought their house for like $150,000 like 40 years ago, and then now they're sitting on like $2.5 million.
Yeah. Or they're gajillionaires and they have a $10 million house and they just like kind of
they just go out there. Maybe. I don't know, but
that's dynamic. And I was in Big Sky for a week, and it was exactly the same thing. Like around the mountain, it's all just like $2 to $5 million homes. But if you drive 20 minutes back into the town at Big Sky, that's where all the help lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a great time, but they still migrate up into the mountain to go to the dive bar to get goofy and drink Miller Lite.
I know it was fun. I went there with my whole family before my sister got married, but I was working for the Kimpton Hotel Group at the time, And then one of the like the employee perks was like, as a Kimpton employee, you can stay at any of the Kimpton properties for like $50 a night, no matter where it is in the world, as long as it's
That's
available.
nice.
So I found one in Aspen. So we went to Aspen. So we like stayed in this like middle of fucking, you know, ski resort in this Kimpton property for $50 a night for
That's
family of four.
nuts. Because I paid almost $500 a night for a hotel that didn't have a window, a hotel room that didn't have a window, and like all the paint was chipping in the bathroom.
Jesus Christ.
So like to get like a decent hotel there, at least last week, I mean, it was the Ideas Festival, so I think that also makes it more expensive. But if $1,000 was like what you had to pay to like get a nice hotel, which I wasn't going to do. But yeah, no, it was nuts. I mean, listen, I think it's beautiful there. I think it's, listen, I was a gajillionaire. I would probably want to buy a house there too. But it was just unbelievable. And then like the fact that that was my last memory of Aspen was like
just to rub it in.
Yes. Oh man, it was crazy.
Like, hey, commoner, here. This is how we do things around here.
Oh man.
But yeah,
flying standby. If that ever happens, I went full Braveheart on one of these, and I stood up and said, "Everybody, wait for $1,000. Just hang out. Just wait. They're gonna offer more." And the people at the podium were just like, "Who is this drunk asshole?"
It's like, "Fuck you, I hate you." I mean, it's totally true though.
And we I took it. A couple of people did it, and we just kind of gamesmith the situation and turned $600 into $1,000 voucher.
Dude, way to reverse the game theory. You know, like.
Yep.
I mean, but it's totally true. It's like collectively, if nobody takes it, collectively, if nobody takes it, the price is only going to go up. You know, so I know these are kind of moments that you go there. It's like a sociological experiment, you know, or like a social experiment watching humans. Like, at what point will somebody break? Like, we all know that if you don't take it, the price is going to go up. But at some point, somebody breaks. You know,
I say, everybody just wait.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? You know, it's like,
but that's funny. I may try the next one. I'll be like, yeah.
The trick is then you have to jump in before.
Raise your Starbucks and go full Braveheart.
Have I ever told you this trick that works every time, like 60% of the time?
Is it your first class trick?
Yeah.
I've told people about this. I would never. I do not have the cojones.
Oh, come on, Allison. You're an actor.
I would not. I would be so. I would be just like, oh my god, I'm going to be discovered. They're going to hate me, and then I'm going to sit in shame for the rest of the seat. I'm an actor, but I have feelings, Un.
What is this?
Anyway, tell your thing for the people who haven't heard this.
So I always wait until I'm the very last person to get on the flight, like very last person. Like, they're literally about to close the door, so I get on, right? And especially for international flight, like usually you have to walk through business class first class, business class, or usually it's business class at least, before you get to your seat. And if there's a seat open in a business class or a first class, I just sit the fuck down. And like at least first class and business class, they have a list. Like, they know who's sitting where, so they know what seats are going to be empty, unless people gotten upgraded. But 60% of the time, those people don't give a fuck. They're like, whatever. We're about to take off anyway. Like, for me to come and ask you to get up and move to the back. 2, people are very much afraid of confrontation. They don't want to be the person to come up here and tell you need to get up and move and all of that. So I sit the fuck down and just let you go.
Good.
And you work 60% of the
first class, the whole like recliner seat bullshit. That's
all of it. I once flew from Vietnam.
But for
Vietnam,
business
yeah,
class.
I once flew from Vietnam to Paris on a first class, just like this. I just sat there, and then they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, "We're gonna let you go," but you gotta be ready, because 40% of the time you're gonna get called on it and get moved to the back. And now, not only are you the last fucking person when everybody's strapped in, ready to go, trying to get everybody to, yelling at people to get out of the fucking bathroom, sit down so we can take off, and then now you've just been told in front of other people in the class that you're the asshole that was sitting in a class that you did not pay for, and you have to walk to your own seat. So if you have a thick skin, you can do it. But if not, it's not.
I wouldn't worry about that. You just say, fuck, my assistant booked the wrong seat.
Excellent call. I'll try that next time.
Yeah, she's like, God damn it, my assistant booked the wrong seat.
I'm dying.
37
I like that. I like that,
37C. I thought it was 7C.
Or just feign like fake Russian accent. Be like, what?
Or like get them to call, like fake call somebody at that moment. They're like, Marcy, God damn it. Not again.
Oh my gosh, Un, please try that in your next time and report back.
You should just say absurd things. You should pick up the phone and be like, you didn't book me in business class. This is the last time I ever hire a male assistant. It's like people will be like, what? Or be like, I don't care if you have a disability. I need to be in the right seat. And then people will be like, what the fuck is happening right now? This person seems awful.
Alligator Alcatraz from the
Yeah, then the fact that you sat in the wrong seat will be the least bad thing about you.
I know, exactly. It's also 2025. I'm like, are you
right? And no one cares anymore. It's true.
Yeah.
This kills me.
No, go full MAGA. Go full MAGA when they try to throw you out.
So apparently, people losing their goddamn mind on the flight is not the only thing that's. It's not an epidemic only in the States. Apparently, the news in Korea has been all about this woman who just lost her goddamn mind on a flight. She started screaming at the flight attendant, saying, "You're the one who like caused me to die," and like she like kicked the fucking flight attendant, and then rushed to the exit gate and tried to like get out of there. She's gonna parachute out, like she need to get out of the flight, and the passengers on the flight had to go like restrain her and then block her from like opening this fucking exit gate. Like this is like the full-on news that's happening. Like that's in the news cycle in Korea right now. I was like, holy shit. So I don't know why this is like the thing that everybody's doing. Like, why is everybody losing their goddamn mind on a flight all of a sudden? But yeah, it's happening.
But, as they come like a bus, like if that was the X2, they'd just open the door and be like, throw them out.
Yeah.
Sorry, they renamed it, but
anyways.
The more you turn into a bus, the more it's gonna be like a bus.
Yeah, exactly. What did I miss in DC? What's happening in DC, in the States? I don't know.
Oh, we decided to end the American experiment.
What do you mean?
Oh, just democracy we just were like, fuck it.
Yeah, you might want to just stay in Korea.
Oh yeah.
Bastion of democracy.
I did hear about Senate passing the big beautiful bill. I did hear about that, but I don't know. Did I miss something?
They have now restricted COVID shots, so you can't even get them. They didn't Moderna has a new improved vaccine that has 1/5 the dose, and the FDA guy was like, "No, I'm overruling the scientific advisory panel, and I'm not going to let people have it." So now you can't get your kids vaccinated. They're not going to do flu vaccines. We're just headed to. We're going to see how many people can die in the next 3 years.
Is this a Bobby Kennedy's doing?
I mean, it's the head of the FDA and his dumbass political appointee. Yeah. So yes.
No, I went to the doctor just for a physical yesterday, and my doctor's like, "You want a pneumonia vaccine?" And I was like, "Is that even a thing?" And she's like, "Yeah, we usually only give them to people under 50." She's like, "But your insurance is going to cover it, and vaccines are great. So why don't we just go ahead and give you a pneumonia vaccine?" And I was like, this is weird. No one's ever offered this before. But now I'm thinking she's probably like, will there even be vaccines in a year? We should just all get all the vaccines we can, while we can just do it. And so I got it. It's fine. But it was the weirdest thing, and I couldn't figure it out. But until you just mentioned that right now, Charles, it didn't occur to me that she's probably just pushing every possible vaccine on everyone that we can get.
Yeah, so they're still going to have them, but only for people over 65. And so like children can't get them unless, so like my daughter has asthma, she might just be able to get it, or like she may have asthma, but like I want my son to get it. So that I think I'm just going to have to tell a doctor, like, will you prescribe this off label to my son?
Wait, is it that you can't get it or it's no longer recommended?
It's not indicated for treating people who are under 65 unless they have a condition that makes them more susceptible. So a doctor would have to depart from the label instructions to give it, which they do all the time, but some doctors aren't willing to do it because it could increase their liability if
Right.
Right.
Okay,
so
it's not
basically
like
they've made it
banned.
they've made it doctors have to break the rules to give almost all people COVID vaccines. Because it's
wait,
COVID's
are they
not that-
breaking the rules, or it's just more of that you need the doctors like signed off like a prescription?
Well, they'll be like going off the label. They're not supposed to prescribe off label. They do, but they're not supposed to do that. Like if you're in court and you're a doctor, you're not going to be like, yeah, I prescribe off label all the time. You'd say I generally follow the prescribing information. I know this because we do this in patent cases to have, if you have a treatment method that you've patented, like a method of treating heart disease with some drug, the person who actually infringes the patent is probably the doctor or the patient. It's not the company that makes the drug, but that's who you want to sue. So there's a provision of the statute that talks about like inducing someone else to infringe, and you can still get sued for that. But to do that, you have to like encourage them to do the thing that's the infringement. So we have these cases all the time where you're saying, hey, by making this label, you encourage doctors to do a thing that infringed our patent, so you should still be liable to us. And so all the time doctors get up there and they go, oh, I would prescribe exactly as is on the label. I don't deviate from the label. I always follow all the instructions. I always read every part. What's your first step in prescribing? Well, first I read the entire label, and then I talk to the patient about the entire label. Like that's never happened in the history of medicine. No one's ever been like, hey, I'm going to prescribe you this. First, let's read the label together. So, but that's what they say when they're in court. And then the rest of the time they're prescribing off labels. So like, maybe it'll be easy to get these vaccines, but like, I'm not sure they'll make enough of them, right?
Wait, it's all vaccines or just COVID vaccines?
This was COVID vaccines, but they've also basically said they're not going to make all the flu vaccines. Like, I don't know. That stuff's going crazy. It's been a busy week here. It's been a busy week.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you check out a news cycle for a week, and a lot of shit goes down, huh?
These people are just like, yeah, they opened a concentration camp in Florida.
Migrants?
I don't know if you've seen pictures of that place. Has anyone seen the pictures of that place?
They're selling merch.
Oh my
God. So,
wait, they're selling merch?
They're selling merch. So like that's the one thing is like the Nazis could have done a little better. They didn't really monetize Auschwitz. They could have like sold hats, stickers.
Well, to be fair, they stole all the art. They stole all the art and jewelry and bank accounts. Like they did do a little.
All right, they did.
Right, hold on. On that note of
they could have like water slides.
Hold on.
And the recording is
monetizing Alcatraz. I'm going to turn off the recording.